October 2024. Oh, yeah. And we are recording now. That means I'll talk later about the Slido and about the questions, but be mindful that we are recording. Academy, we started last year, and from the very beginning and still today, our aim with the Academy is to facilitate action learning. And action learning means that we take a very much a hand-on approach, that we focus on the how-to. It's so to say not in the ivory tower, but it's on the factory floor and the brand floor where we have collected insights which we would like to more broadly share. And this is mainly thanks to our long-term relationship with our member brands. And the reason why that's the case is that we also hold them accountable in the brand performance check, which we also publish. And there we learned a lot about practices that are working and maybe also the challenges why they are not working or why they need to be improved. We developed together with our member brands and we tested with them. And these insights are now translated into Academy. And with Academy as next step, we aim to make human rights due diligence or improving human rights in your own supply chain understandable and concrete and reachable and able for everyone who is actually active in the garment and footwear industry. And even we see some interest from other industries as well, which is very exciting for us. And this is all in line, of course, with our mission to improve human rights for all workers in the garment and footwear industry, which is, from a fair wear perspective, in the end, why we are doing this. I mentioned already, we have a very hands-on approach, which means that with our Academy, you don't just know what is required and how you do human rights due diligence or how you improve your human rights in your supply chain. Yes, you will know if you do the Academy, but even more, you will feel confident and you feel equipped to actually do it and to start working on it. Because we show you, we teach you, and we showcase that it's doable and that you can take steps, and it is a step-by-step approach. And this is because you have choice if you follow Academy in tools on how to make progress. There where it's needed, there where the risks are highest, as you will probably see later. And also because you can even measure with Academy the progress that you are making. And if you like, you can even report about it in your own channels. We will enable that and we facilitate that. So that in general about Academy. And then today we're launching Access Level 3 Active HRDD. This level is specifically designed to facilitate you as a company to actively manage the risks in your supply chain. We will present tools that support real-time risk scoping. And important to mention already here in the very beginning, our tools include country information for the main garment producing countries. And this information is validated by local stakeholders, including the information of stakeholders which are often affected by human rights harms, something also often referred to in the legislation. In addition to this, our tools help you in the prioritization, where to start, which is also an important aspect. You see it on the slide, powered by Fairware. And there I want to emphasize that from the very beginning, from our launch or Fairware in general, we have a very collaborative approach. At the moment with Academy, we have 4 active partnerships where we aim to also strengthen the partners and their members in their human rights due diligence approach. At the moment, our active partners are Cascale, the European Outdoor Group, the PST, the German PST, and the Dutch retailer, the Bijenkorf, with Academy. Yeah, we intend with these partnerships to reach a wide audience, as wide as possible, because we believe that the industry should, in the end, have human rights due diligence as an organizing principle. Well, powered by Fairware also means, as I mentioned, active with input from our member brands, with whom we work already for many years. And this is important. We also believe that brands are central to driving change. A sourcing decision directly impacts the workers in the supply chain elsewhere. And by working with brands, we can ensure that human rights due diligence is not just a compliance exercise, but a strategic approach to all kind of ethical business, human rights and environmental, but we focus today on human rights. The Academy provides a structured pathway for brands to understand, to embed, and to act on human rights due diligence principles. And with membership, as I mentioned, the input is coming from most of our member brands, where we have full accountability, where we have the fairer assessments, where we have the trainings, where we have the access to remedy, the performance check. We have embedded all these insights into the learnings, into the modules, into the tools of Academy. And with the Academy, we focus on action learning. We offer this tailor-made guidance through the webinars, through the pathways, where you can learn this, try this, and take this with you to work on improvement of human rights in your own supply chain. Before moving to the actual launch, first something very practical, and that is how you can ask questions. Maybe we can have the next slide. Because we are using Slido here, and you can go to the website slido.com and then add the number which you see on the screen. And if it's not working now, don't worry. On every slide you can see this code again. When you are on the slide, then do not enter the hashtag, only the number which is displayed, which is, if you can't see it for whatever reason, 2053436. I repeat, 2053436. And then in Slido, you can ask a question. And if you do, you first see a box, and we first would like you to ask you to add your name and your organization so that we also have a bit of context. Who is asking the question? And then you can type your question in the text box, so to say. If you are there and you see a question where you thought, oh, I just wanted to ask this as well, you can actually rate this with a thumbs up, so that we at least will see the questions which most of you think are important. Okay, let's move to the next slide. A bit about this access level and updates from us more in general. Access level 3, active HRDD, and I'll explain later why I call it 3, is the access level that we have now. We are now launching, and it is the idea is that this is the final access level. We have 3 access levels in HRD Academy. And of course, we will continue to develop, but this will be more, let's say, in the access levels. I'll briefly go through the access levels for you to see what the differences are between the different access levels. And each level builds on the last one. So first, level 1 is called understanding HRDD, and this starts with foundational knowledge. So if you're starting your journey with the HRDD Academy, there are questions like, how can you strengthen human rights in your own supply chain? Which is a very broad and general question, of course, but also, what is human rights due diligence? What are the 6 steps of human rights due diligence? What is required in international standards? What is required in EU legislation? And how can I prepare for that? So these are the kind of foundational questions in the first level. Then if you've gone through that, you move to level 2, unpacking HRDD. And unpacking HRDD has a focus on your own company's practices, and specifically on purchasing practices and how to make your own purchasing practices more responsible. So here, for example, if you want to start working on living wages in your supply chain, what can you do in your own pricing, for example? Or how does your own production planning impact human rights at facilities in the deeper tiers of your supply chain? And how can you address that? That's another question, which is again reflecting upon your own purchasing practices. Or what does your sourcing strategy mean in terms of being linked to human rights, or maybe even severe human rights risks? And how can you actually change that or address that? Or another question in this access level 2, unpacking HRDD, is, how does my business model as a company impact human rights risks in my supply chain? So this is really about reflecting about what you can do as a company. And then today we are launching access level 3, active HRDD, and that is really focusing on what can be done in the supply chain and what the supply chain risks are. And this level will enable you action through country risk profiles with stakeholder validation, validated information. Fairware is active in 10 main garment producing countries, also with our local teams, and they have every year or all through the year contact with different local stakeholders, trade unions, labor rights organizations, business organizations. So the information is not just coming from our own local teams, but also from these stakeholders. And we have a specific methodology to actually validate to what extent the different stakeholders agree on this information. So you will find this in the country pages for these countries. Well, as you will see later in the demo, but I won't emphasize it now already, is that with this third access level, you will be able in the HRDD Academy to manage all type of human rights risks which are identified by the OECD. There are 5 types of human rights risks. We have the sector risks, we have the production country risk, we have the business model risk, the sourcing model risk, and the product risks. And this is really unique because so far we've not seen any tool yet, and we benchmark, and we are always very interested what others are doing as well. But this is really unique that that we offer basically an approach and a tool to on long term and in a detailed way manage these risks. And it's our risk scoping tool, and you will find it later in the demo. So in short, why join Academy? It's the only platform offering a step-by-step HRDD journey from learning to implementation. It's built on practical, scalable, and responsive to real-world challenges in sourcing and supply chain management. The Academy is developed and updated with stakeholder validated information, including the voice of affected stakeholders. It means that you have access to exclusive tools, insights from membership and from MSIs, and a community of like-minded brands. And last but not least, of course, Academy enables you as a company to make a difference for workers within your own supply chain. With this, don't want to keep you waiting any longer and want to head over to my colleagues, Victoria and Sanna, who will take you through the new access level with a demonstration.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mariette. Thanks a lot. And yeah, now we are going into the practice. So we will show you the platform itself, and we will guide you a little bit through the platform in general, but then we will also show you specifically, of course, what kind of new tools we are offering in the Active HRDD access level. Let me quickly share my screen with you. Yes. Yeah, so this is welcome to the HRDD Academy. This is our platform and the dashboard. So the moment when you enter the HRDD Academy, this is how it looks like. And thanks to Mariette also already explaining more about our differences in what kind of tools we offer in the different access levels. So the idea of the HRDD Academy is also to provide self-paced learning, but also a step-by-step learning. So as Mariette already mentioned, in the first access level, it's all about understanding HRDD. And because, everything is around the 6 HRDD steps aligned with the OECD guidelines, of course, the 6 steps are the center of our HRDD Academy. So as you can see here, also you have access to more specific learning and specific resources that are related to show you on how to implement the different HRDD steps. For example, if you click here on HRDD step 1, you will be guided to a specific page where you can read and get more access to specific resources. Especially related to our policies that we also give you access to. And as you can see here, we also have related learning. So next to all the resources in terms of documents, we also offer interactive learning, which I think is also a very valuable tool to learn more about HRDD. So as you can see here, always related to one step of the cycle, you can also click here and you will be guided to our learning platform. No, maybe not. No. This is because how we logged in as a test account, so that it doesn't connect to the learning. But it will work. Okay. So maybe I can explain a little bit more about the background. So these learning modules are interactive learning modules, and they always consist out of different lessons. And we wanted to create it as interactive as possible for you. So for example, if you would go to the learning module of step 1, we have different kind of formats that we offer. For example, there is an animated video explaining more about how to implement step 1. There can be also a video from someone, an expert from Fairware, explaining practical ways how to actually implement step 1 in your internal company processes, as well as also learning modules in terms of assignments and quizzes, Sometimes we also have videos included from our member brands, Farah member brands, explaining also on how they have implemented it. And you can also test your own knowledge by going through the different quizzes. So yeah, and we have created more of those learning modules, not only related to the HRDD steps. So we have modules on the 6 HRDD steps, but also on various topics like gender equality, social dialogue, living wages. So quite a big range of different learning modules. Then we also offer you insights into our extensive resource library. So here you can see that we have a lot of different kind of topics that you can filter, and based on whatever resource or whatever topic you're looking for, we offer quite a big range on resources that you can access, of course. Here in the corner, you also see that we have an event calendar. So every time we have different kind of webinars coming up, could be, for example, a webinar about gender equality. Then we also inform you about it, and you can also be part of it. Our way to communicate with HRDD participants is through the notification channel. So every time we are going to update any resources or we have any updates, we inform you about that. Our most important tool is our HRDD journey, which is quite a special tool. So with that tool, we actually make sure that we can guide you through the platform and give you specific access to resources and learning, what I've just explained, when you actually need it. So the goal is we have specific questions that we came up with, and based on the questions, we assign you actions and we assign you resources and learning. And the goal is to turn, because it's very simple, a yes and no questions, to turn your no questions into yeses. So for example, you see here that we have specific questions on risk scoping. It's, of course, one of the focus topics in our new access level. So you can go through it and answer specific questions. You can save and create new actions. And then based on what you have put in, so based on your answer, we will assign you suggested actions. And then you can go to the action, and then you can actually actively work in that action. You can set a due date. Say 2nd of September, save. You can also assign it to a different colleague. If you say this is an action actually for someone in the purchasing department, and then you can use our tool also as a project management tool. Yes, and if we go back to the homepage, actually, if we now go to step 2, you can see also that we have added the actions. So based on the input that you gave, we added all the suggested actions also already related to the different HRDD steps. So you can really follow per HRDD steps, what are your open actions. And I think the most important part is coming now, and my colleague will explain to you our new risk scoping tool, which is one of our new, very innovative tools, and also related to the actions that we have just assigned here.
Yes. Do a bit of chair switch.
Yes.
So I'm actually Sanne, and that was Vicky.
Now we're at the good name. So I will show you our new risk scoping tool. So if you enter our academy, you have to go to the 9 dots in the left corner and then click on risk scoping. And this will open our new risk scoping application where you can really work on the risk in your supply chain. If you worked, put them not double in their screen. Yeah.
If you've gone through our academy by now, you probably know what risk scoping is, but risk scoping is a requirement from the OECD and from our HRD policy, and it requires companies to scope the risk of harm in their supply chain. And to do this, brands must do a scoping exercise on different levels, as Mariette already explained. We require you to do a scoping exercise on country level, but also on sector level, product level, sourcing model, and business model risk. So all these different levels should result in you being able to have a full picture of what are the risks in my supply chain, and in the end also help you prioritize on what you should do next. And this is what we try to facilitate in our new risk scoping tool. So when you enter our tool, you enter on the dashboard. This is where you prioritize. So this is actually the end of your risk scoping. This is where we feed your information on your highest risk in your risk scoping. However, to get this information, you of course first have to put in the risk information. And to do that, you go to your risk scoping menu item over here. Here I've already added a couple of countries where I'm sourcing. However, you can add any country you want to. So you start from a country level and you can click on add country, and here you can click add any country you want to start a scoping exercise for. Let's go into Bangladesh, for instance. So if we start a scoping exercise for Bangladesh, this is where you would put in the information. However, maybe you don't have much information about the risk in Bangladesh yet. And for this, we as Fairware also want to provide you some information. And for this, we have our tool called Country Profiles. How to get to the country profiles, you can click on the globe here. And you enter our country profile for Bangladesh. But you can also find our country profiles under the menu item countries. And then here you find the countries that I've added to my risk scoping tool, and here I find the country profiles for those countries with some information on from Fairware. And then if you open the country profiles, you can read information about our countries. Country studies from Fairware collect multi-stakeholder validated information on country risk. This information is updated in real time. As Mariette explains, we have several country teams in several active Fairware countries, and they are the owners of these profiles. So whenever something changes in the countries, you get real-time information about the risks. On the left side of the country profile, you have some general country context, so some general information about Bangladesh. We also provide you some information about the rule of law. There are some indicators. We link this to international indices that can help you scope the risk of harm in Bangladesh. And there's also the news item. We currently don't have any news published, but whenever there's something newsworthy, we will publish a news item here as well about Bangladesh. Then if you go to the right side, you see the potential harms. So here we provide specific information on potential harms in Bangladesh. The potential harms are organized per labor standard. So these are the 8 labor standards from Fairware. And if you click them open, you see a standard list of specific harms that could happen in Bangladesh. And then on the right side, you see a likelihood information. So our team has provided a score on the likelihood of this harm happening in Bangladesh. But if you want to read some specific information about the harm, you can open, for instance, that open overtime is not voluntary. And then here we say, okay, our country team has said the likelihood is 3, and they base this on all this information. Something important to point out is, for instance, the stakeholder input. So they collect stakeholder input from different stakeholders in the country, and they give it here. Some of the open finding counts, so how many findings has Fairware found on this harm. There's also a gender lens, which is very important. And you can read this, and whenever something changes, we update this in real time. So that is our country profiles. There's also the related resources for Bangladesh and anything you want to can find about Bangladesh. Now let's go back to our risk scoping. So now that we've read the information about Bangladesh provided by Fairware, we know which kind of harms we want to scope for Bangladesh, or which are likely, which ones I need to assess for Bangladesh. To do this, I can add any harm to Bangladesh to start my scoping. I've already done that here. And let's scope the harm over time is not voluntary that I just showed you. So I open overtime is not voluntary, and again I see here, hey, Farah says this likelihood is 3. I can again read the information from Farah and find some related resources. And then based on this information, I give a likelihood score and a severity score. I can also give a reason. I can give some information about the gendered impact of this harm in Bangladesh. And I can provide some information about the sources that I base this on. And now I've scored the potential harm of overtime is not voluntary in Bangladesh, and I say the significance of this harm in Bangladesh overall is 4. Now I've done country level, which is the Bangladesh, and I've done sector level, which is overtime is not voluntary, which is a sector risk. Now, as we said before, you also need to scope on on 3 other levels, which is product level, sourcing model, and business model level. This we've facilitated by adding the risk factors. So here, I can add a risk factor to a harm and scope what would be the potential impact of this risk factor on this harm in Bangladesh. So for example, let me add denim. Now, when I click on the plus, I see a couple of potential risk factors that I can add, but I can add any risk factors I want to. So if I'm missing anything here, I click on Manage Risk Factors. I click on New Custom Item, and I want to, for instance, scope the potential impact of denim on this harm. So I'm going to add denim to overtime is not voluntary. And then I know, because I've just read a research about it, that if that denim production actually increases the risk of overtime is not voluntary in Bangladesh. So then I say it increases. So what I say here, overall significance of the harm in Bangladesh is 4, but for the facilities where I produce denim, actually there's an increased risk. And this is how we connect all these different risk factors and do a risk scoping, complete risk scoping. Something else I wanted to point out is that you can do the risk scoping on all the labor standards from Fairware, but we also added the OECD sector risks, which are the more environmental risks, and bribery and corruption. So this way you can facilitate a full risk scoping of all different sector risks. And then if you provided all this information for all your countries, you've done your risk scoping, we go back to the dashboard. And now I see my list of prioritized risks. So the information I provided comes back to me and it says, hey, actually this harm, overall my supply chain is most significant. So I should prioritize this risk. And then if I open it, I can read some more information about it. What did I score per country? What is the impact of the risk factors on this harm? And then the next thing I need to do is follow up on this potential harm. So I've identified that it's the most significant risk in my supply chain, so I need to then create some follow-up actions. And here again, Fairware suggests you a list of potential actions you can take, and you can decide which ones you want to do by selecting them and then adding them to your action plan for this risk. And you can create also your own actions if you want to do that. And now I've created a risk action plan for this harm to address this risk in my overall supply chain. And that's our risk scoping tool. Do you want to add anything, Vicky?
No, I think that gives a good overview of our new tools that we have. And as I said, it's all connected like the HRDD journey. As you could see, we always link to the specific resources, and one of our biggest resources or one of our tools that can help you by implementing impactful HRDD is the risk scoping tool. So based on the specific questions, we would always link to that tool. So also to make sure to guide you through the platform and to make it as self-explanatory as possible, because it's also self-paced learning, like it's your own yeah, it's an interactive learning platform. And yeah, hope you enjoyed the demo presentation. Thanks, Anna.
Thanks, Vicky and Sanne. Then let's move to the questions. We already have received quite some questions in Slido. Just a kind reminder, this is the code. If you still have some questions, which you can use. In the meantime, let's take a look at the questions. And the first question is the Academy also accessible for CSR quality country staff? Vicky, can I give that question to you?
Yeah. Yeah, of course. I think that's actually also a really good question, because I do think that's also what we see with brands or working together with brands, that this is very valuable. Then, of course, it's still, so maybe also quick explanation. So one account is a brand account. So, yeah, the agreement would be between the HRDD Academy and the specific, your company, the brand. And if your staff is directly employed with you, then we have a certain number of user accounts. So per participant, we have different number of user accounts. So yeah, that's possible, and it can be different people. It can be from CSR, it can be your local team, it can be people from purchasing and sourcing. Depends a bit on how many users you would like to have on the platform. And the learning is also always user specific. So every user go through the learning modules themselves, and you can yourself track your progress. But then there are specific tools like the HRDD journey that I've shown, and also the risk scoping tool that Sanne showed, that's then very specifically on company level, like on brand level. Yeah, so, but you can also, as I showed, assign actions to other colleagues. So that's, of course, possible. Like, yeah, you have different users per account. Yeah, I hope that makes it clear.
Yeah, thanks. I think it's very clear. And if not, because this, Richard, it was a question of you, let us know if you like something be explained more in detail or however. Another question is, what if you are a wholesaler, or a question, what if you are a factory? Is HRD Academy then open for you as well? And what we can say there in general is that yes, you're welcome at whatever tier of the supply chain you are. However, the focus and the way we've addressed our learning is based on our brand membership with member brands. So the perspective is coming from member brands. However, what we see is that what you have to do as a company is not just something you have to do as a brand, or you can do as a brand, but you can actually do it wherever you are, whether you're a wholesaler or a retailer or a factory. It's just that the examples also are mostly drawn from the experience with our brands at the moment. And then we have a question. Another question is, how long will it take to complete each level? Vicky, I'm also going to give that one to you.
Can you repeat it again?
How long will it take to complete each level?
Yeah. So yeah, as I said, it's the HRD Academy is a self-paced, or it's based on self-paced learning. So of course we do have some like recommendations, or also based on experience, to see how long it takes to complete one access level, but that also really depends on your individual setting and how much resources you have, and also how much capacity you want to spend on going through the learning and completing the HRDD journey. But there is no time limit in that sense. So it's it's a self-paced learning platform. Yeah.
And I think also for this new access level, active HRDD, you can, let's say, have your risk scoping live there, right? So that you can continuously update.
Yes.
So that's
Yeah,
I think
definitely.
a bit different. Yeah.
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 Yeah. So the academy is also really designed as to use it as your kind of like project management tool to really actively work in the platform, to work on the actions. And then always go, like when you have completed an action, you can go back to your journey, but also adjusting your risk assessment also, or your risk scoping, depending also on maybe also what is happening in the country, for example, country context changes. So it's really ongoing process, I would say. Yeah.
Thank you. Another question is, how is this different from membership? And I said already a bit about that in the introduction. With membership, we have the brand performance check, where we every year or every second year also actively check, like, hey, what is the progress that you have made in your supply chain? With membership, we also have access to our fair wear assessments and trainings, which are at the moment not yet or not in academy. And another important one is the fair wear complaint helpline or a grievance mechanism. That is something which is included in membership and which is also not in academy as this there, except in the case of our partnership with the PST, because there the academy can be combined with grievance, so you can have let's say a combination. And the reason why the PST has that in that partnership is that within the PST there's also an accountability check, like what have you done and how have you addressed that, because that's from a fair wear perspective something which we see as very important. So in general, academy is about learning and action. Membership is about learning, action, having access to several other country services, and accountability. So that is the main difference. You will never have something academy which is not included in membership. So let's say membership is our complete and overall approach is fair wear, and academy is always a part of that. If you would like to know in your specific case, we'll talk one slide later about how you can connect to us, and then we can, of course, separately discuss that as well. Another question, I think this is for Sanne, and this is about, do you have country profiles on all countries? And this is a question from Richard. Sanne.
Yes, thank you. Yes, we have country profiles for all countries. The level of information differs, quite considerably per country. So for our fair wear countries, we have a lot of information, a lot of different indicators and different data. And for other countries, it really depends. For instance, we have collaboration with the SLCP, so the number of finding counts, like some data from them is showing in non-fair wear countries. Collaboration with other organizations that are providing us information about other countries might also be included in that. Indicators from international indices will be included in all country profiles. So there is some information in most countries' profiles, but yeah, the level really depends. So for the fairer countries, we have the really quality data. Yeah.
Thanks, Anna. And then I think the question about the different tiers, is there a scoping tool? Can you apply that in all tiers of your value chain? That's another question. I think that's also a question for you.
Yeah. Yes. So as I showed during the demo, on the product level, production process level, which is I think very relevant for the different tiers, but also maybe your sourcing model level, which is also relevant for the different tiers. You can add any risk factor you want. So you can add specific risk factors that are only applicable for the deeper tier. So if you're producing, if you want to do a risk scoping on spinning, you can add spinning as a production process and then scope the risk for that risk factor. So that's how you can include deeper tiers as well.
Thank you. Yeah, this is it with the questions. We have no more questions which are added. So let's move to the next slide indeed, where, we've done our presentation. Now, really a call for action to you. To continue and to join us and to get into contact with us. You can do that through join@fairware.org, or you can go to our website, which is Fairware Academy, HRDDacademy.com. And there you can also, if you would like, book a time slot and book a meeting with someone to further discuss your situation. We've added here the prices, and they start, it's a bit different per, let's say, your size or your company size, or also which access level you have, but they basically start at the $13.99 per year for the first access levels. And within our partnerships, we've agreed that there is a discount if you become participant through a partnership. So thank you for joining us. If you would like to know more, know where to find us. Thank you very much, and wish you a really nice rest of your day. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.